advocates whisper in the hall, where justice wears a mask and truth begins to fall. Every thread they pull, every lie they weave, in the courtroom's dance, who's left to believe? Oh, the devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end. The devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end in sight. A photograph fades where the truth once stood. Blurred lines between the bad and the good. The scales they tilt with every silver tongue, while the broken cry for a song unsung. Black robes sway like shadows on the wall. One wrong word and the mighty fall. Who's the sinner? Who's the saint? The jury's out, but the verdict's faint. Oh, the devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end. The devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end in sight.
Well, hello out there, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well today. Welcome in to another episode of Devil's Advocates, Crimes After Dark. And tonight is our conclusion of our deep dive into the JonBenet Ramsey case. So I want to thank everyone for, following along with this investigation into the case. And it's been an amazing experience going through this with our panel. And tonight we have Dego with us from True Crime Cafe, of course, and we have Sir One. So we're going to have a great discussion tonight. It's good to see everyone out here. It looks like we got Kathleen Bell, we've got Jackie, we've got In Stitches, Michelle Rowe, Soft Touch Productions, and of course our amazing mods. We have Essie and we have Amanda. So great to have you guys with us tonight. We appreciate everything you do. And over on Dago's side, of course, we have all the amazing mods over there. So we want to thank, the audience in both communities for coming out for this case tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring up both gentlemen to join me here. Well, hello there.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Hello.
Good evening. Good evening. Good to see you all.
Here.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, very good. So, what's new in your worlds today?
Day.
Today? Yeah, go ahead. You go, Dave. No, you go.
Oh, you the same thing. Nothing. A lot of reading for me, and just weekend activities. That's about it. Truly and honestly, I didn't even do a regular show today. Besides this one, just trying to get through some of that other stuff. So,
yep,
that's all.
I hear you. How about you, One?
Well, I had my son's birthday party yesterday, which I shared some of the pictures with you, and then I had to
happy birthday to him.
Thank you. And then I had to work overnight, so that was an interesting
graveyard.
Oh man.
Yes, that was an interesting thing, and I'm not used
bet.
to doing that anymore. I used to work late hours, but when you're not
In the
kind
Bronx
of
too?
no,
Oh,
this
okay.
was
Thank
just
God.
covering no.
Jesus Christ,
Oh,
dude!
wow.
I'd have been scared to death thinking you had to work the graveyard shift in the fucking Bronx. That's crazy.
Yeah, really.
It is insane what's going on. Like
I'm sure.
the robberies and stuff and
I
everything. I'm not gonna. I
listen.
won't walk around the city without having my gun on me. So
Well,
I
when
don't
you
blame
told
you.
us you were working the Bronx, right? After you said that, so you know how intuitive I am. I started going over and like Googling like Bronx crimes in the Bronx in New York and looking at the Bronx and doing live cam feeds that they have and shit. I'm like, oh my God, this is our friend. I'm scared to death for you, bro. That's crazy shit that you see. It looks like it reminded me, no lie, you guys. Not as zombie like, but it does remind me of like Kensington in Philadelphia. No lie. It's just like,
yeah,
wow. No way, dude.
Yeah.
Get in your car, stay in your car, lock the doors, and don't get out. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Yeah. If you got to drive through there, just keep it locked up and keep moving.
That's
Don't stop.
scary.
yeah. I definitely wouldn't walk around there late at night.
No. I wouldn't walk
You
around there in
know,
the broad daylight. Sorry.
yeah. And now that and the issue that I have is, when I'm driving around, I'm in an unmarked car, so
Yeah.
I
There's
Right.
no
it's like shit
there's
pops
no
off in front of
yeah.
us all
There's
the
no
time.
warning.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. That's
crazy.
crazy. Crazy. So,
Yeah. Senor
well, do
Wazowski
you
says
have? I'm
oh
sorry. Go
how
ahead.
no, I was just saying fear will get you killed, Wazowski said. So yeah.
Yeah.
He comes
Very
from
well.
a pretty bad
Well,
place too.
Yeah.
um, I will say my answer to that is yes and no. So, um, lack of making a decision will get you killed.
Yeah.
I actually have a different, I mean, not to, there's different ways of thinking, and we all have different experience. I'm not saying you're wrong, Senator Wazowski. I know you have your own, um, like where you worked and your own experience, but
Yeah.
with over 20 years in NYPD, what I have, I would say fear actually is what keeps you safe
Yeah.
because,
It
um,
makes sense.
right, it makes you that it's hard to explain.
I
It
get it.
really is. It's hard to explain. Um, yes, hesitation can get you hurt or other people hurt, but there's a difference in hesitation and in fear. So fear is oh, and I know those I know I'm know those guys in the car over there. I know they have, some kind of illegal guns and whatnot. Um just running up to the car and doing whatever that
Yeah.
will get you killed. But being fear that you're going to get shot and trying to take a more thorough approach and to think about a tactical approach will keep you safe. So
Yeah.
everything,
Right.
yeah, good.
His his second comment made more sense with it. Yeah. He said not saying have no fear, but just harness and control the emotion because
Control the emotions.
Yes,
that's true.
Yeah.
yes.
Because even as a first responder, like in EMS and stuff, guys, going into bad neighborhoods at 3 o'clock in the morning on a call
Yeah.
that was, called in. We've been on many calls where we were like, they were trying to get us. I'll just put it that way, okay? Like they put in
Yeah.
a call for one thing, and it turns out that they were trying to rob. A couple of our guys were robbed at gunpoint. A couple guys got attacked and jumped in the middle of the night. To where they stopped putting, believe this or not, they stopped putting like we usually ride 2-man crews. Sometimes we would have
Yeah.
3. We were running with a medic and 2 EMTs, but they stopped putting women on some of the midnight buses because of that. So, it's one of them things. But yeah, you gotta go in.
Yeah.
I agree with the fear thing because I would be scared in certain neighborhoods, but like he said, harnessing it and learning how to control it is the
Yes.
most important thing.
That's yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't see your
Yep.
other comment. Harnessing your
Yeah.
emotion. Um you're always gonna, your adrenaline is gonna kick in and you're heightened and
Yep. Yep.
But you try. This is why, this is why we train, and you try to when I try to teach these the newer officers, and it's one of the things that um with the body cameras. So unfortunately in NYPD, every time they come up with some kind of new technology and everything, it always winds up being something that winds up ending in discipline. Everything's always discipline, discipline. Now, am I
And
saying that
training.
am I saying that if officers do something wrong on camera that they shouldn't be disciplined? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is internally, when we have all these different things we're supposed to review and check different types of jobs, everything's like in the department, everything's always about like discipline and critiquing. My main thing with the body camera really should be showing other officers tactics. Look,
Oh,
look how you
training.
were standing, training.
Right.
Look what you did. Look, when you went to that job, do you realize that you had your gun out behind another officer's back? Do you realize that you were
Right.
standing next to the stairs? Do you realize that you could have been pushed on the train tracks? Like, look, like that to me, it's about everything. Everything's about more so about safety.
Yep.
So that's my
Training is
main
training's huge.
my main thing. So last night I could tell you real quick. So my job last night is covering the duty. So that means that I was covering all of Queens. So anything major that happened, I would get notified. I'd have to go, or they'd call me. And one of the things that I have to do, I have to check on all hospitalized prisoners.
Mhm.
So one of the things that was kind of taught to me and trained to me, and this would be true throughout the entire country, really probably throughout the whole world. This isn't like a US thing. It just has to be with sitting. If your responsibility for that tour, that whatever it is to watch this prisoner, I was trained that there's three pieces of information that you should acquire immediately upon sitting with that prisoner. So, in my travels, when I'm going along and I'm visiting, so uh they were all supposed to have leg shackles, so that's one thing, real quick. But that's not really a question. Like it is, but that's just something they're supposed to have, because that's the number one place that prisoners try to escape from.
Yeah,
So
right.
the three things, and I asked these three questions to everyone, that all the officers that I'm visiting that are guarding the prisoners. And at first, when I asked these questions, they probably, because some of them don't know, they don't know me yet, or they're not sure who, like, oh, why is this captain bust? Why is he busting? They don't say this, but I know in their head they're probably like, oh,
Why is
great,
he
this guy's
busting my
busting my
balls?
chops.
Yeah.
But then they realize, at the end of my question what I'm actually showing them, and they usually wind up saying, oh, thanks.
That's how
So
it works.
so real quick, and then we'll get into what we're here for. The three pieces of information are uh, what was the person arrested for?
Important.
Okay. So you have a guy in the or girl in the hospital, and you're assigned to watch them. What was the arrest for? Why are they in the hospital? What is the why are we there?
What put him
What
there?
is the
Yeah.
issue? And the third thing, which I sometimes have to kind of like pull out of these cops, even I kind of like dummy it down and practically give them the answer, or I have to actually tell them, and they still don't
Right.
get while they're doing it, and then they realize after. You need to do a background check on these people that you were sitting there. You need to know if this person or girl sitting in front of you has a history of fighting with officers, if resisting arrest, EDP, suicide history. So when we do a check, we have, we do, it'll show their whole history, and it's like we call it a snapshot. A snapshot pulls up, and it'll be like a little alert box, and it'll tell us if they've been previously arrested with a gun, if they've had a history of escape, all this stuff. I can't tell you how many cops I go to, and I ask them, I'm like, does this guy have a history? And they look at me like I have 80 heads. What the hell am I talking about? What do you mean? I'm like, okay, do a check on him. And they look at me. I'm like, yeah, do the check now. Run his name right now. So they run it. And like last night, out of the 4 prisoners, 2 of them, they ran the name, and the snapshot popped up. And one of them had EDP suicide history, and one of them had resisting arrest history. And after they saw that, both of them, like a light bulb went off. They understood. They're like, thank you. I'm like, this isn't about...
Because it gives you expectations as to what you could possibly expect to warn yourself.
Exactly.
To be prepared.
Exactly.
Right.
Information is always power.
Yep. And it's funny because when you were saying that one before you got to the third one, Wazowski typed history in the chat before you even got to it.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, he's on the same page with you, 100%. I love it. But yeah, it just makes sense.
Yeah, so it's not about giving discipline. Discipline would be you didn't take proper precautions, and the person escapes from the hospital, or tries to escape, but stuff like this, it's all about people signing out and going home to their families. That's what it is.
Right.
So
there you go.
Yep. So
all right, I got my intro here.
All right, go right on ahead.
Is it good to be alive in the den on Sunday night?
Always.
Yay.
Juliana, Jackson, my beautiful wife, love you guys always. Some cases don't just stay alive. They evolve. They shift depending on who's telling the story, what evidence you focus on, and what you're willing to believe. And few cases prove that more than the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. Because from the very beginning, this wasn't just an investigation. It was a divide. On one side, a theory that the answers were inside that house. And on the other, a possibility that someone came from the outside, left almost nothing behind, and disappeared into the dark. The intruder theory. And whether you believe it or not, it refuses to go away. Because there are things that didn't sit right. A broken window that may or may not have been an entry point. Unknown DNA that didn't match the family. A crime that felt both chaotic and calculated at the same time. Which brings us to a man who stepped into this case and saw it differently, Lou Smit. He didn't just entertain the intruder theory, he built it. Piece by piece, detail by detail. He believed someone entered that home, committed the crime, and left in a way that made it look impossible. To him, this wasn't a closed loop, it was an open door. And then there are the names that surface in the margins, the ones that don't always make the headlines, but never fully disappear either. Like John Wesley Anderson, a name tied to questions, to speculation, to the kind of loose ends that cases like this seem to collect over time. Because here's where things get complicated. The longer a case stays unsolved, the more narratives compete to explain it. And eventually, people stop asking what's proven and start asking what feels right. Tonight, we're not here for comfort, we're here for tension. We're here to pull on the threads that don't line up cleanly, to look at the theory that says someone came in, did what they came to do, and vanished without a trace. And to ask the question that still divides this case decades later. Was this something that happened inside that home, or did the truth walk in and walk right back out? Welcome to Devil's Advocates. And with that, live from New York, Sunday night.
Yeah, yay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Oh,
excellent,
let's get
as
rid
always.
of Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I
Thank you
know,
guys. I'm glad to be back. I missed a couple weeks on this, but
Yeah, I was gonna
yeah, we're
say,
so glad you're here with us tonight.
yeah, we
Yeah.
missed you last week. So we did just as a quick recap, we did talk about pineapple. We talked about
Yes.
the stun gun. We talked about the stun gun
Yep.
theory. A few different things.
Yeah, the
So
autopsy stuff.
and
Some of it, not all of it, but some of it.
the pineapple thing leaves me really questioning now because I always thought, oh,
yeah,
definitely it was after, she had it after, but now I'm not so sure.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It makes
because
you
there was
wonder.
more than just pineapple.
Yes, it was actually like a fruit cocktail kind
Yep,
of
Yeah,
grapes
yeah.
and
that's what I didn't know that until just recently as I was
right,
reviewing that they found grapes
right,
and cherry pieces and whatever else was in
right,
there. So
right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So that's didn't know that. So that's another reason it's always good to go back through these cases to kind of learn new things and refresh our memories on a lot of it. So yeah, it's always
Yeah, well,
interesting. So
we have to cover the case before IGG says that they solved it.
yeah, right. Of
yeah,
course, yeah.
yeah,
Awesom's
of
gonna
course.
have this one. Author's gonna
Right.
jump in and solve this one finally again overnight.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. We'll see about that. So, but
um
I know you had said one about
okay.
covering
Yeah.
someone who we have not
Yeah.
really talked about yet.
Right.
So,
So
which would be
good
okay,
Lou
yeah,
idea.
Smit.
sure. Sure.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of other stuff. We're gonna discuss a few other areas. I did where is it? I got it here. Hold on 1 second. Hey, 1 second. Because I know people were asking, oh my god. Tell me I lost it again.
Are you talking
I
about
probably
That
did.
is me.
No. Someone was asking oh no, I got it. I think I do. Yeah. Someone was asking they wanted more info on the rope.
Yes.
Okay, I got
Yes.
it. I
They
did. I
had
do have
questions
it.
about
So
that.
we'll get into we'll talk about that after a little bit more on the cord and stuff and okay. Lou Smit. Who is Lou Smit? Like I mentioned him in the intro. Um so I'll mention a bunch of stuff that he that he kind of follows, whether you want to believe him or not. He definitely was super passionate about this case, and it's kind of a disservice, and we wouldn't be doing justice to cover this case and not mention him. So whether you want to believe what he says or not, or you think, oh, I don't believe what he's saying, I still think it's important to see his side because
yeah, I
he
agree.
did a lot. He did a lot on the
Yeah.
case. A
He
lot.
wasn't following the direct narrative either. He was doing his kind of his own thought processing on this, in my opinion.
Right. All right. So Lou Smit, Andrew Lewis, known as Lou Smit. Um, he was born April 14th, 1935. He died August 11th, 2010. He was an American police detective in Colorado Springs, Colorado. He worked on a number of notable cases before his retirement in 1996, and he was later recalled to work on the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. So, just I guess a little bit about him. Having tried various businesses and failed, he prayed for a solution and saw an answer from God. Got a call he received from a cousin who served on the Colorado Springs Police Department, suggesting that he applied to serve. Smit had fell just short of the department's minimum height, of 5'9", but he was able to join the force in 1966 after he had his cousin hit him over the skull with a nightstick, allowing him to meet that height minimum when he was remeasured the following day with a bump on his head. That's pretty funny, actually. It is. It's really funny.
Needed him.
Yeah.
He had a bump on the... Well, hey, it worked, and it's a good thing it did.
So. Working his way up the rank of detective, Smit was involved in a number of notable cases, including the conviction of spree killer Freddie Glenn for a series of murders, including the 1975 killing of Karen Grammer, younger sister of actor Kelsey Grammer. In 1995, he arrested Robert Charles Brown for the 1991 murder of Heather Dawn Church. Church's father had been one of the original suspects in his daughter's murder, but Brown ultimately confessed to a total of 48 murders and was sentenced to life imprisonment. Smit retired in 1996 from the El Paso County, Colorado Sheriff's Department, where he had served as captain of detectives. Some of Smit's cases, such as the Grammer and Church murders, were featured on the Investigation Discovery series Homicide Hunter. In 1997, 3 months after the murder of JonBenet Ramsey, Smit was asked by the district attorney's office to come out of retirement to assist with the investigation. While initial suspicions had been that Patsy Ramsey was responsible for the murder and that John Ramsey had been protecting his wife, Smit resigned from the case after 18 months, having concluded the Ramseys were not responsible for the murder and that the Boulder Police Department had been unjustifiably pursuing the Ramseys as suspects, despite DNA and other evidence that showed that some other person was responsible for this killing. In his September 1998 resignation letter, Smit stated that the Ramseys did not do it and cited substantial credible evidence of an intruder and a lack of evidence that the parents are involved. Smit later worked for the Ramseys in helping establish their innocence. After the Ramsey case, Smit continued to work on cold cases. As a detective, Smit boasted he never lost a homicide case in a career in which he worked on more than 200 murder cases in which a suspect had been arrested and tried for their crime.
Wow, that's an amazing record.
This is a smart guy. Smit went to a doctor in April 2010 after experiencing abdominal pain. After a CAT scan identified a tumor was the cause of the pain. It was discovered that the cancer had spread throughout his body and was untreatable. And he died at age 75, August 11, 2010, at Pikes Peak Hospice in Colorado Springs due to colon cancer. John Ramsey came to pray at his bedside shortly before Smit's death. Smit was survived by 3 daughters, a son, and 9 grandchildren.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. So he had a very long and storied career himself with, a great record. Wow. I didn't know he had, had that many cases closed,
So, right. So there's that's a little bit on Smit. And then just a real quick thing. It's not as long, but because I mentioned him also in the intro, John Wesley Anderson. So he was born January 20th, 1954. He's an American author, public speaker, and he's also a retired law enforcement officer. He's served as the elected sheriff on El Paso County, Colorado. He's also known as the TEDx speaker and published author focusing on Colorado history and law enforcement. In 1972, Anderson began his law enforcement career with the Colorado Springs Police Department, where he served for 22 years, retiring at the rank of sergeant. 1995, he was elected sheriff of El Paso, and in 2003, he was term limited. Anderson's work has been published in the Canadian Society of Forensic Science Journal. Anderson served as an advisor for the 2024 Netflix documentary Cold Case, Who Killed JonBenet Ramsey? So why am I mentioning what's special about John Wesley Anderson? So he he has a very special book that he authored that's called Lou and JonBenet. Um, so just to mention this a little bit, and then we'll move on, because this will talk into
I
more
do
of
have
Lou
a
Smit. Go
small
ahead.
little piece
Yeah, go
to
ahead. Go
add
ahead.
to your
Go ahead. Jump in.
okay.
Yeah,
I
go
just was
ahead.
gonna. It's real quick for those of you
Yeah,
that
go
didn't
ahead.
know. Speaking of John Smit, he like one explained, he did a lot of work on this. Lou Smit was very invested in this, and again passed on in 2010. But a lot of people don't realize that. Well, I'll just read the article to you guys word for word. There's a paralegal out there by the name of Cindy Mara. That's Lou Smit's daughter. Okay, she works at a Colorado Springs law firm, and that was the law firm that basically supported the basis of the BONET case, okay? Or Ramsey case, I'm sorry. The only reason that they're doing this is because of she did an interview with I think it was People. Is because of her dad was her hero, she said. Mara's dad was Lou Smit, a longtime Colorado Spring homicide detective. As we know, soon after JonBenet was murdered, Smit came out of retirement to help the Boulder DA's office. He left 18 months later, saying that he was frustrated that Boulder police would not consider that an intruder had killed JonBenet. So, like I said, he was kind of on his own mindset with this, and Boulder PD would not listen to what he posed as facts as to how this could have been done. So
Right. Right.
there was that. So he I guess he just felt that they needed to follow where the evidence was leading them, as any detective should, in my opinion. And he did not feel that it was leading to the Ramseys by any means, he said. According to his daughter, Smit worked on the case by himself up to 11 hours a day, right up until his death in 2010. Mara said that on his deathbed, her father asked her to continue. And that was really his dying wish, she said. So, as she has granted his wish, assembling a team of about 6 people, including 2 of her father's former law enforcement colleagues, to try and solve JonBenet's murder. When her dad was in the hospital, he had given her a name and said, just start with that name, write down that name, start there. And that's where we started, Mara said. And for the past few years, Mara and her team have been going through her father's lengthy list of people of interest, collecting DNA by various methods, sometimes with people's consent and sometimes without. Um, and comparing the DNA they collect with the DNA found on JonBenet's clothes when she was killed. And we have not gotten a hit yet, Mara said, but this man left his DNA, and there's no reason that we can't find out who did this. When asked how long she intends to work the case, Mara quickly replied, "We promised we would never give up, so we're in it for the long haul. We feel such a love for our dad that we want to pursue this, which was important to him, this case." So, just to say that there's still people to this day that are still digging and looking, including Lou Smith's family, in his
Yeah.
name, are still looking into this case to try to get an answer. So it's pretty awesome. It really is. So I just wanted
And
to, since you
yeah,
brought
no, it's
Lou up,
good.
I wanted to throw
Yeah,
that on the back end of that.
and from what I remember, I mean, you guys, we'll try to, we'll give you, some links or some stuff, after the show or maybe in the comments. From what I remember with Smith, he took a lot of recordings. He made a lot of recordings.
Yes.
Like while he was
Yeah. Tons.
Because
Yep.
he really wanted, um, you know, because he did like hands-on investigating at the house and different things. So he wanted his words like on tape, like what he thought and whatnot.
Right.
So just a few other things real quick into his to add on to Dago. So actually I said part of it. So this book, it's called Lou and JonBenet, A Legendary Lawman's Quest to Solve a Child Beauty Queen's Murder by John Wesley Anderson. So
Yeah.
what he says is 2 things inspired him to write this. First, he wanted to correct the public misperception that
Mhm.
someone in the Ramsey family was involved in the murder of 6-year-old JonBenet. Second, was to communicate the fact that this case can still be solved by a competent law enforcement agency using the DNA left behind by the killer at the crime scene. Maybe not Othram, but so
Yeah.
JonBenet is a story that must be told, and he realizes he's uniquely positioned to tell it. I got here. I can't really read this. 3
I
months,
threw a
1997. Yeah.
I threw a
What do you want to
picture
say?
of
Yeah, go ahead.
backstage, Robin. If you want to throw the picture up while he's talking through it,
Yeah,
that's Lou.
There we
That's
go.
Lou.
Right. So in March 1997, 3 months after the murder, he received a phone call from the Boulder District Attorney, Alex Hunter, asking if he would recommend he hire Lou Smit as an investigator with the Ramsey Task Force. At that time, he was the elected sheriff for El Paso County, Colorado. He strongly encouraged him to hire Lou and shared that one of the smartest decisions he made when he was elected sheriff was to hire Lou as the captain of detectives. He tasked Lou in reorganizing the detective bureau and take on the Heather Dawn church investigation, which was one of the most high profile unsolved kidnap murders in their community.
Right.
And within 3 months, Lou and his detectives arrested Robert Brown for the kidnapping and murder of Heather Dawn Church. He eventually pled guilty to 2 murders in El Paso County and is now serving 2 concurrent life sentences. Shortly after Lou was hired by the Boulder DA's office, he told me there was something wrong with the case. The facts were not what were being reported to the public. He shared how there was yep. He shared how there was a broken window in the basement standing wide open. He pointed out the reason there were no prints in the snow was because there was no snow around this south-facing window. It's very interesting. As Lou became more involved in the investigation, he returned to the crime scene, convinced that the family was not involved. When he shared with the Boulder detectives that the physical evidence had led him to conclude the parents were not involved, that there were other potential suspects who should be pursued, his intruder theory was outright dismissed. Now, where have we seen this before? That people get narrow-minded, want to follow one lane.
Right. They've got their person or persons.
You heard like Lou Smit was involved in 200 homicide cases. I mean, this is someone who knows what he's talking about.
Right.
After being on the DA Ramsey task force for 18 months, Lou saw that a Boulder grand jury was being impaneled and became concerned that they were focused on indicting the parents. Lou felt this would be a terrible injustice, and in protest, Lou resigned from the Boulder's DA's office. You have to look at that too. This is someone who his whole life's work, he's captain of the detectives. He's in charge of the detectives, and he resigned his position. That's how passionate he was about this case. When he asked to testify before the grand jury, he was refused. After seeking legal representation, he advised the grand jury special prosecutor that if wasn't allowed to testify, he would have to go public with his findings. Reluctantly, the special prosecutor agreed to allow Lou to testify, but limited his testimony to only 2 hours. Anderson met with Lou countless times after he had resigned from the DA's task force, and he shared with him his investigative notes. Lou had built an amazing slide presentation and organized a huge spreadsheet to organize his investigative notes and findings. He dedicated the rest of his life to solve the murder of JonBenet. Even after he had been admitted to hospice in 2010, he continued to share his thoughts on this case with Anderson, his family. And a few months after Lou had passed away, he received a call from one of his daughters who invited Anderson to join Lou's family, along with a handful of other retired detectives, to continue Lou's work in finding the killer of JonBenet. Since Lou's passing in 2010, the Smith family team has used DNA to eliminate more than a dozen persons of interest named in Lou's investigative notes. Using the advances in genetic DNA technology, there has never been a better time to solve the murder of JonBenet Ramsey than there is today. Um, so his book tells the inside story of Lou's compelling investigation, features many of Lou's previously unpublished investigative slides, notes, and highlights the physical evidence which led this legendary lawman to conclude this murder was not committed by a member of the Ramsey family, but by an intruder, an evil man who broke into their home during Christmas of 1996 and committed one of the most high-profile unsolved murders in American history. So,
yeah, I
Yeah,
think I'd like to read that book.
I
yeah,
agreed. I was thinking about it. He pretty much dedicated his entire,
yeah,
from that point
Yeah,
forward, his life to this case, you guys. And I mean,
yeah.
up on even on his
I
deathbed,
mean,
he was
even during
telling,
hospice.
yeah,
right.
yeah, he's telling his
Yeah,
daughter, who that's why I was circling in that photograph right there. That's her right there. He was telling her, write this name down. This is where you start, and you keep going from there. So he was not letting go down to the day that he passed away. So God bless him. You know what I mean?
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, we just
it's
wanted
a
to give you. I just wanted to give you a little history, a little background into Lou Smit. He's an important person that's involved with this case. So
Right.
you definitely,
right.
whether you believe everything he says or you have some disagreements or whatever, at least give it some thought. Look at his findings because he didn't have.
Right, it's important.
This wasn't about being famous or anything like that. He was trying to get to the
Right.
truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
another person that
Loving
was
it up.
sorry. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to, Loving It Up says, I thought the DNA they found was a packager's DNA. Well, it was, but apparently there
Yes.
could be other DNA as well that is, of course, pertinent to the crime. So, but yes, that one, I believe it was on the underwear.
Yeah.
Then they found that
Yep.
Yeah.
it was tied back to one of the like the warehouse workers that had packaged it, I guess.
Right. And just to add something, there's another gentleman by the name of Peter Hofstrom. He's passed away as well, but he was I'm sorry, he was an investigator and the deputy DA and the JonBenet Ramsey murder case in Boulder. Okay, he also was convinced that an intruder killed JonBenet. Um, it was there was a small handful of these people that believed in this, that supported Smith, as well as the thought process behind what he was standing for with this. Okay, um, and I believe there was also another gentleman by the name of, I might say it wrong, Trip Demuth, Demuth is his last name. First name was Trip. That was part of that as well. Um, and they both, all of these people insisted that there was no evidence to suggest that the Ramseys murdered their own daughter. They talked, I should say, because there was a group of them, like I said, that I'm of these names, Smith and these other people. Um, they talked a lot about evidence, motive, lack of family abuse or violence, and made a compelling case, and talked about speculation and how the case was media driven. Surprise! What else have we seen like that? And they were doing it back then, it says, So,
Yeah,
I mean, he went on and on.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is evidence and what is speculation? What is evidence? What is speculation? And
Right.
90% of this, the Ramsey information was based off of speculation, guys. Um,
yeah,
and says that again, Smith and Hofstrom said that the Ramseys absolutely did not murder their child, and everything pointed to a killer who knew what he was doing. Okay, Lou Smit had told Hofstrom before he died, he thought the killer was a serial child killer who had been following JonBenet. And then Trip DeMuth, the DA on the case, also thought an intruder killed JonBenet. I have never interviewed DeMuth, but I did talk to DA Alex Hunter, who was infuriated with DeMuth, Hofstrom, and Schmidt, and he fired them all, folks. Every one of them were fired because of their thoughts on this case. And again, this was along the lines of what went on in the Delphi situation, because we had
sure.
three officers that believed that it was the Jesus, I can't think of it. The Odinistic side to it,
Odinist.
and they weren't allowed to talk about it, so they were,
Right.
ostracized from the situation. So forced them out of the DA's office and away from the case, so on and so forth. So these people took it upon themselves to investigate this to try to prove what they believed. So very interesting, very interesting. Again, sorry to
Yeah.
jump in there, but I wanted to add these
No, that's
pieces of
fine.
info to this.
Yeah.
Because it supports it very much so. So anyway.
And I still believe, and I get that, and I understand. There are some things that are awkward. We get that.
Makes sense.
Right.
It does.
But I just say keep an open mind and listen, that's all I
Right.
say, You make I'm not telling you what to believe or what you believe, and you
Yeah.
listen to the different theories, and
Right.
you make up the decision for yourself, but all we
Right.
try to do is give
Because
you the different sides.
right. Because we believe that this community, our audiences are all intelligent people who can look at evidence, not just one side or the other, but all of it, and make up your own minds. And so, yeah, we're not going to presume to tell you what you should or
No.
shouldn't believe. So, but this is why we're presenting more than just one thing,
Yeah.
one side, one view, so that you can look at things and revisit this case
Yes.
and make up your mind whether it reinforces what you already believe or maybe opens your mind to other thoughts about it. So I for one am really have been enjoying learning. There's a lot that I have been
Yeah.
relearning about this case as we're going
Yeah,
through it.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
I have
Uh
really been enjoying it. So
I mean,
And there,
yeah.
the
for those of you,
pineapple thing. I'm not saying I don't know exactly what I feel yet. I'm reviewing, watching some documentaries and different things. The pineapple, I was so sure forever. I watched the documentary, the interview with Patsy where she was asked, her and John were asked about the autopsy, about the stomach contents, and she made some comment like she didn't know, like she hadn't read it, which I was like, that doesn't
right?
make sense. How did you not read it? But listen, the evidence is the evidence. It from
Right.
the autopsy, it's not just pineapple. It's actually other.
Right.
It's like a. So I always thought,
Fruit
oh,
cocktail.
she definitely got the pineapple from Burke. Burke was having pineapple in the dish there. I was
Right.
always down that train of thought, like she got the pineapple from Burke's dish, but now I'm not so sure about that.
And that's
Right.
what
Where
this
did it
is.
come from?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and if you guys are interested in the side of the story that Lou was chasing, there's a documentary that, and I've seen this. It was really good. It's a documentary that came out in 2020, about six years ago, roughly. Yeah, sorry, I forgot what year it was. And it's called JonBenet Ramsey. What really happened? Sorry, guys, I'm losing my mind.
That's okay.
It
We
was
get it.
yeah, it was put out by Discovery. I'm sure you could find it in different places, but go check that. Yeah, I'm telling you, he really does show why the evidence is so compelling as to the possibility of an intruder breaking in and doing this. So it when I saw it, I was kind of for a long time, I always looked crazy at John and Patsy, like, I don't know now. And then I watched this and I was like, damn,
yeah,
okay. And that's like with what one's saying about the pineapple
yeah,
and stuff, guys.
right.
When we see
Yeah.
these things and we read these articles and we get into these things and investigate per se, if you could call it what we're looking at, it can change your mind when they show
Yeah,
compelling evidence and
Sure.
facts that make sense as compared to other things. So if
Right.
you have doubts or if you have, if you're interested, if you follow the case, go watch that documentary. There's a lot of other ones. I know one's been watching them. I've been watching them. They give a lot of information that really make you even question your own self on certain theories you've had. So it's worth it, guys. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
Yeah, so we
Well, it
covered
looks
this
like
last week. Tomboy Charm.
yeah.
Yeah, she didn't she have fruit? So apparently at the Whites. So no,
Yeah.
like they couldn't remember, they weren't sure, but apparently they served some kind of cocktail
like
at
a
the
fruit
White
salad
party.
or
Right.
something.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very strong possibility that she did have it there. And then just to not cover the whole thing, what we did last week, but remember, if you remember what, Robin and I were covering, we were talking about how it's so there may be kind of like an average, but it depends on the size of someone and the weight of
Yeah.
someone. Digestion is very weird with people. It's
Yeah.
not like a
Yes.
definitive thing.
No.
So
right, because they said we were kind of doing some stuff on the fly, and I looked it up, and it said that the same, you can have two 6-year-old children, and they will digest things at a different rate than one another. They don't necessarily have an identical, even though they might be the same age, around the same height, same sex, same weight, very similar to one another, but their digestion can be, vastly different. So because we'd had some questions about, how digested was, the fruit cocktail in her stomach, and that kind of thing. So yeah, and here again, we all like to try to be accurate, so that's why we're looking it up, and it said that children can digest things at similar but also different rates, just like any person. So that was not totally conclusive as far as the timeline went, as far as the digestion. So
Right. Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Robin, did you want to? I got stuff. I know people wanted to. They were asking last week about the cord and some stuff on the Garrett thing.
yeah,
Did you want to cover the
if you
Santa?
wanted, yeah, I'll do the. I was reading through some things, and I had not realized that there was anything to do with a secret Santa being involved, and that
Mm-hmm.
just really kind of piqued my interest, uh, because could this supposed secret Santa be the intruder? I don't know if any of you guys out there in the chat, remember anything about this, but some of this comes from like neighbors or parents of some of JonBenet's friends, and also her friends. Like their one neighbor, the Carnes. Apparently, while JonBenet was playing at one of her neighborhood friends' house, the Carnes, uh, told her friend's mom that Santa Claus was going to pay her a special visit after Christmas, and that it was a secret.
Very interesting.
I had not heard that before.
Yeah.
That was new to me too.
Yeah.
That was new for me.
Yeah.
So.
And there was another friend's mom, Barbara Kostanek. I guess she was, like I said, the mom of another playmate, and she said the day before Christmas, JonBenet was at our house playing with Megan. The kids were talking about Santa, getting all excited. I asked JonBenet if she had visited Santa Claus yet, and she said, "Oh, Santa was at our Christmas party the other night." And Megan had, seen Santa at the Pearl Street Mall, so they talked about that. And then JonBenet said Santa Claus promised that he would make a secret visit after Christmas. Um, and Barbara said she thought that JonBenet was confused and said Christmas is tonight. And JonBenet, Santa will be coming tonight. And JonBenet says, no, no. He said this would be after Christmas, and it's a secret. So,
Mm.
now Patsy said that she never heard JonBenet say this. She never heard from anyone else that JonBenet ever said it. But there's been a couple different instances where she mentioned. Now, was this some fanciful kind of thing that a child may say? or maybe, but had someone really said to her, I mean,
that's
I don't know. What do
wild.
you guys think about that?
That is wild. What
It is wild.
What if this person got in her ear and said, "Hey, it's a secret, but I'm gonna come visit you after Christmas, and I have a big surprise or something for you." And people are sick. Okay, anybody
Okay,
that would
let
hurt
me.
a little girl or a child at all, we know they're already mentally disturbed. I mean, think about
Right.
it, guys. I could see that happening. That is some crazy shit. It truly is. And they do touch on that. I just found out, and I have some new stuff when we get towards the end of
Okay.
this. When we get towards the end, that I'm going to give you guys on updates as far as this year with the investigation. Because for those of you that didn't know, this is not a closed case. It's very
No.
active as of this year. They've basically they've gone back to the beginning, and they're redoing a lot of this case as of right now, just so you guys know. So it's still very active and being investigated currently. There all sorts of stuff that I'll get into a little bit later. So, but yeah, that thing there with that, I had not known about that until you had
Yeah,
mentioned it.
and
So
apparently, somebody in the chat, Dandied in Mont, said
yeah,
that apparently, it was rumored that there was a Santa Claus potentially involved, but the person they had been looking at has since passed away. So that was something I had never heard before. I thought that
Yeah.
was
it's wild.
yeah, so
Yeah. Super
and if
interesting.
that's true, if that person was the one involved and has passed away, uh, no matter whether the perpetrators are still alive or they're not, justice will still be served if they find out who did this heinous crime. So
Right.
just to
Exactly.
know and to put it
Right.
put it put it to rest, will be worth any amount of testing, any amount of investigating that
Yeah,
needs to be done. And this crime and many other crimes, it's the same thing.
agreed. Very much agreed.
Yeah.
There are, like I said, as we get to that point, there's some interesting new things that have come to the table on this. So, I'm kind of excited to tell that. But where did you guys go from that point? Did you get through all of the? Because I wasn't here.
Yeah.
I'm
The
sorry.
timeline. We finished the
The
timeline pretty
the
much.
autopsy and all that stuff too, and all
Well,
that.
Yeah,
well, the autopsy. I mean, I had
we
like,
were.
yeah, we just touched on
Yeah,
the stomach contents. I didn't go crazy into the autopsy.
Right.
There was. I know. Also, I saw last week there was a few people who were asking about the head injury and stuff too. I have some stuff on
right.
that, so we can
Yeah, they
discuss
wanted to
that.
know more about the head injuries.
Because
There
I
you
know that's
go.
kind of like a big debate. What that's
Yes,
like come up. Was she was she strangled, or was she killed from the head injury, or
Or
like
both.
which one was, or both,
Right.
right? So I know
Yeah.
that's
Because
kind
yeah.
of
there's
like a
Which
little
one was?
right.
Yeah,
yeah. There was definitely a garrote found. We know that. As far as the strangulation and stuff like that goes. But yeah, that's a good question. Actually, go for it, bud.
Yeah.
With the head injury and all that, delve into it.
Um. Sure. Well, I got. You want to do the heading? Okay. The head
Well, I mean, whatever,
injury.
however you want to do it. But
Yeah, yeah. A head injury. Head injury has a bunch of stuff. Well, I'll cover. I'll start with the ligature cords, I guess. Okay, so there was a white cord, uh, flattened. It measured 1/4 inch in width. It appeared to be made of a white synthetic material. Um, Cords on wrist was tied loosely around the right wrist. Overlying the sleeve of the shirt is a white cord. The knot there is one tail end, which measures 5.5 inches in length with a frayed end. The other tail of the knot measured 15.5 inches in length and ended in a double loop knot. This end of the cord was also frayed. There's cord around the neck, wrapped around the neck with a double knot in the midline of the posterior neck is the length of a white cord similar to that described as being tied around the right wrist. Removal of the cord by the coroner. This ligature cord is cut on the right side of the neck and removed. A single black ink mark is placed on the left side of the cut, and a double black ink mark on the right side of the cut. The posterior knot is left intact. There's a wooden stick at the end of the cord. Extending from the knot on the posterior aspect of the neck were two tails of the knot, one measuring 4 inches in length and having a frayed end, and the other measuring 17 inches in length, with the end tied in multiple loops around the length of a round tan brown wooden stick, which measured 4.5 inches in length. This wooden stick is irregularly broken at both ends, and there were several colors of paint and apparent glistening varnish on the surface. Printed in gold letters on one end of the wooden stick is the word Korea. The tail end of another word extends from beneath the loops of the cord tied around the stick and is not able to be interpreted. The hair was entangled in a neck knot. Blonde hair is entwined in the knot on the posterior aspect of the neck, as well as the cord wrapped around the wooden stick. Judge Carney's decision, complicated knots. JonBenet's body was bound with complicated rope slip knots and a garrote attached to her body. A garrote handle from paintbrush. The garrote consisted of a wooden handle fashioned from the middle of a paintbrush, found in the paint tray in the boiler room. The end of a nylon cord was tied to this wooden handle. On the other end was a loop with a slip knot, with JonBenet's neck within the loop. Missing paintbrush end. The end portion of the paintbrush used to construct the garrote was never found. Cord fibers in JonBenet Ramsey's bed. Further, there were fibers consistent with those of the cord used to make the slip knots and garrote were found on JonBenet's bed. John Van Tassel, a forensic knot analyst and corporal in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, gave expert advice on the knots to Boulder Police Department, but it is unknown what his findings were, except for those leaked in Steve Thompson's book. So I have here the cord wrapped twice around the neck. There's a claim that the cord was wrapped twice around JonBenet Ramsey's neck. This is not visible in most autopsy photos because the first loop is buried so deeply in her neck.
I just wanted to touch on the paintbrush. I'm trying to find, and if someone knows this, like how thick this paintbrush was, because apparently it's saying both ends were broken off. So
yes,
depending on how big the paintbrush, if it's a wooden paintbrush, you have to have at least a little bit of strength to break something like that.
Yes.
And there's also the potential of getting splinters in your hand.
Right.
And I don't believe they ever found the actual end, the bristle end of the paintbrush. No. So where did that go? I mean, I know, didn't they say that the paintbrush was matched those like that Patsy had or something?
Yes. That's what I remember hearing about that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering how, like, because in order to, I mean, it takes a lot of pressure for those.
Right.
And again, trigger warning out there. Some things, as you know, on this week.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And I do have the parental advisory up. Yeah. So just so you know, but it takes a lot of pressure and a lot of strength to apply. I mean, that kind of, weapon, I guess you would want to say, or weapon. I'll just call it a weapon. Yeah. It takes a lot of pressure. So a flimsy little paintbrush like like a thinner paintbrush may not hold up under that kind of pressure. So it had to have been a fairly sizable paintbrush.
That's how I understood, is that there was some type, and I might be wrong, but this is how I always understood, is that there were some types of like painting materials in the basement areas down there. It was a bigger, like a a bigger,
in the boiler room, right?
Okay,
a bigger paintbrush.
Oh, the way that they're calling it like a paintbrush, I thought it was like from an artist paintbrush set.
No, like a house painting brush.
Oh, okay, because I was trying to look here, and it doesn't give the diameter around. It just gives the length, which was about 5 inches long.
And that's why I had a visual that they took and busted the bristle end off, broke it in half, and then used it to make the ends on the garrote, and therefore in turn, that's how I saw it.
Even so, if you're going to break a paintbrush of that size, that still takes a wooden paintbrush. That still takes a lot of strength. So it's somebody. If they broke it, it's somebody that had considerable strength, which would not be Patsy.
Well, and it definitely would not have been her older brother.
Burke.
I'm just telling you,
Burke.
There's no way
because Burke was he was 9 at the time.
Right. So, this is a grown adult that did this, in my opinion, for sure.
Yeah.
So I just have a little more on the knots.
Yeah, go for it.
Where are the knots sophisticated? The slip knots and the garrote are both sophisticated bondage devices designed to give control to the user. Evidence from these devices suggests they were made by someone with expertise using rope and cords, which cords could not be found or sourced within the defendant's home. So, Michael Caine assessment. So, Special Prosecutor Michael Caine, in response to Mary Keenan's statement that she supported the Carney's decision. First of all, the thing I was going to say is if Mary Keenan has reached this conclusion, she clearly has not reviewed her own file because they don't want to get into a lot of specifics about this because of ethical reasons. But there are clearly in the police file answers to a lot of things that the court said had never been established. I mean, I can give you, I don't know where this came from, that these were sophisticated knots. I don't know that anybody had the opportunity to untie those knots who was an expert in knots, but the police department had somebody who fit that category, and that was not the opinion of that person. They were very simple knots. Could the Ramseys tie such knots? No evidence exists that either defendant knew how to tie such knots. Yes, critics of the Carney's opinion note, and we discussed this last week, Robin had a good point of view on that. Critics of Carney's opinion note that John Ramsey had naval experience, that both he and Patsy were active sailors, and Burke Ramsey was in scouts, all of which would have given them some expertise in knot tying. But the argument that the knot was it was not a knot that would have easily been tied. Like it basically was. There are people saying that it was, a more sophisticated knot.
You had to know what you were doing to do it.
Right. Where did the cord come from? Sources from the cord used in the crime were never located nor sourced to the defendant's home. So that's interesting. The only thing that they found were, like I said before, were some fibers from the brush and whatever on JonBenet's bed. Stan Sport cord. The cord used was traced to Stan Sport. It comes in 50 feet and 100-foot lengths. According to this poster, it's also known as Coughlin's cord. Authorities determined that this cord was sold at Boulder Army Store and McGuckin's. Steve Thomas's book claimed that a receipt from McGuckin's for the exact amount of this particular type of cord was traced to the Ramseys and purchased by Patsy. However, a photograph in an ad suggested the cord actually sold for a different price. So, that's an interesting bit. Parachute cord. In November In a November 25th, 2006, 48 hours show, a brief was provided of a report prepared by Trip DeMuth
The moose,
summarizing
yeah.
the case evidence that would exculpate the parents. A screen capture of the page shown suggests that police may have been seeking parachute cord, as this may have been the type of cord used for strangulation. Such cord looks very different from the cord seen in autopsy photos. Authorities did not identify the cord as Stansport until mid 1998. We spoke about this too last week. American Girl doll cord. Some believe that the cord came from an American Girl doll owned by JonBenet Ramsey. However, it's very clear from the autopsy photos and from the language used in the autopsy that the cord used for the wrist ties and the garrote was flat and not rounded, and hence could not have come from the doll. Comparing the length of the cord used for the garrote versus the cord from one of the American Girl dolls, the latter cord would be too short unless two of them were tied together.
Right. And Senior said it's basically, so you guys understand it, and he's right. Nylon cord wrapped around cotton is what makes that type of cord, folks. That's exactly what it is. So
yeah.
Good call, Senor. And again, that way you can kind of get a visual in your mind as what you're thinking of what it is.
Yeah. So that is very interesting about the discrepancy in the price of what it was selling for and what was on the receipt.
Right.
And that's why little details matter, because
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, just a simple thing like that can either, confirm or deny whether the cord used was actually purchased by the Ramseys, or was it brought by someone. And if everything was determined to have been used from within the home, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Ramseys, and here again, we're looking at all angles. It doesn't mean that the Ramseys were responsible. It could mean that it was just there. It was there. It was handy.
It was at the house at their disposal. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So
and I have
hold on,
I'll give you guys a picture of what this looks like if you want to see it real quick.
Yeah.
Hold on. Thank you to my amazing moderators for doing what you do. All right, there's one picture back. There you go.
Yeah.
See if I can blow this up a little bit.
Yeah.
There we go. So there, in essence, is the type. See how it's flat, guys? It's almost like it reminds me of like a shoestring. Okay.
Yeah,
kind of, right.
So again, there's that photograph, and then
and look now, is this the actual garage? Okay, so it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted, if you blow that up again, I wanted to look at something real quick.
Yeah.
That picture that you had just, that one, yeah. So if you're looking at that, okay, that is not something that you can just tie, around the stick. That looks like it.
Yeah, that looks more like an artist.
It would take a little bit to tie something like that.
Right. I mean, look at the knot. Look how many times it was wrapped and then tucked and taut and then wrapped. Yeah, it took a few minutes.
Definitely. Yeah. And someone who knew what they were doing. Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. And trigger warning. I'm sorry, you guys. I should have said it beforehand, but there's
you could see the hair.
There's hair. So my apologies.
You could see her hair, which is crazy.
It's insane, but that's very sad to me. But thank you, Tammy.
It is. It's so tragic.
But that's the actual photograph of it. Thank you, Tomboy, for that. And it does look like it could be an artist brush, depending on, it's a large one, but it also looks like it was whittled, possibly. If you look at these markings here, okay, like it was whittled down a little bit or something. It's weird because I know like even certain artist brushes are more flat than round.
Right.
But my understanding from what I've always understood, it was like a house painting brush or a house. You know what I mean? A square brush, square handle. It does remind me of a drumstick too. That's wild.
Yeah.
But
So,
like,
okay, so it was actually an artist's paintbrush, though,
I
is
mean,
what this.
is that what it's saying? Okay, then that's good to
Yeah,
know.
well, I don't know. I'm just saying it's like the kind of brush you would use to
Yeah,
paint a. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's round. There's
yeah,
no flatness to it. She said so.
right.
That'll give you guys the absolute right there because that's the
Yeah,
real deal. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah,
again, thank
that
you,
took a
Tomboy.
little while to tie that around that
Definitely.
stick for
And
sure.
you had to know
Yeah.
what you're doing. That was not just
Yes.
you know what I
Right.
mean?
So I
No.
So,
don't
No.
believe so like seeing a picture of that to me I, I don't see Burke. I don't see a
no way in
9-year-old
hell.
doing
No
that.
way.
No.
I don't
Yeah.
see Patsy doing that.
Right.
Truly.
No. No. A 9-year-old isn't. Even though he was in scouts, he's not going to have, unless he's like the prodigy of knot tying. He's
Right.
he's not going to have the know-how to tie a knot around, and he's not going to know how to create a garrote anyway.
No.
Right.
No.
As a
I,
9-year-old, I don't believe that's something that he probably would have known.
No.
So,
if
yeah,
you can find
I don't
me
believe.
if you can find me a
Yeah,
9-year-old that knows what the hell a garrote is, we got other problems to worry about. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
definitely. So, yep.
So that was some interesting stuff.
yeah,
So
definitely.
I got some stuff on. I I know this is actually a good thread to pull on a little area here, and it'll bring up some good discussion I think in the chat. Uh, kind of like it's sort of a little bit of an overview of the evidence, interpreting the evidence. Um, how is John Benet killed? As with any homicide, we start with the body, including what we can deduce about how JonBenet Ramsey was killed. We know from the
Mhm.
autopsy that both a severe head blow from an unknown object and strangulation from a ligature found on her neck contributed to her death. Which injury came first? This is a question that hypothetically can be answered even if we never determine for certain what specific object was used to deliver the head blow. What object was used for the head blow? Moreover, the answer to this question may be important in determining what kind of perpetrator killed her. Why?
Right, which makes total
Why?
sense.
Yeah. Why Garrett? Uh, the evidence related to the Garrett may reveal something about the killer's motivation in using such a device rather than manual strangulation or an alternative form of lethal violence. Stun gun, sexual assault, and prior sexual assault. Forensic evidence obtained from the body may be critical in narrowing down the range of plausible suspects. And remaining forensic evidence. The remaining forensic evidence comes both from her body, her clothing, or other locations in the house, as the answers to these two would greatly constrain who might be regarded as a plausible suspect. Is this a DNA case? Was JonBenet really fed pineapple? Where was JBR killed? Was this a kidnapping for ransom? Other evidence entails how to interpret forensic evidence unrelated to her body, including the ransom note and the house itself, which speaks to the issue of motivation or nature of the suspected killer. So here we go. Which came first, the head blow or strangulation? Many theories of the case rest decisively on whether the head blow preceded the strangulation. If Steve Thomas's bedwetting rage theory is to be accepted, for example, it is critical that the head blow precede the strangulation used to cover this up. Conversely, if Cyril Wett's sex game gone awire theory is correct, The accidental strangulation would have to precede the head blow used as part of staging. The experts are divided on this issue. We got expert opinions. Dr. Werner Spitz, Tom Henry, Henry Lee, and Ron Wright all concluded the head blow came first. Ronald Wright, MD, director of the Forensic Pathology Department at the University of Miami School of Medicine, reviewed JonBenet's autopsy report at the request. He says the blow to her head, which Wright is convinced was not from a golf club, but more likely a blunt object such as a baseball bat or heavy flashlight, came first. Wright said she was whopped on the head a long time before she was strangled, said Wright. That might or might not have rendered her unconscious. But this is not anything that kills her right away. He said 20 to 60 minutes elapsed between the skull fracture and the strangulation. It's interesting.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, one thing you were talking about the bedwetting rage. I don't know. I know that I thought I heard something about it wasn't just JonBenet that had that. There were several of John's kids that had that issue as kids. So that wouldn't have been maybe some. Now it might be might have been new to Patsy. I don't know, but I'm just saying that may not be. I don't know that I believe that that's what set it off.
No, right.
Or
right.
Yeah, I just I don't.
It may have
that's
had
my
nothing
opinion.
to do with that at all, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, a lot of kids do it anyway, so there's not always a reason behind it,
Right, right.
Definitely, and it is. I've been told what Tomboy just said, that it can be a hereditary thing. With being born with small bladders, it's just part of your makeup,
right?
Your so
it's possible,
right? So yeah,
definitely.
Head blow with little bleeding possible. Kerry Brega, neurologist at Denver Health Medical Center, says it's not uncommon for people with skull fractures to not have any bleeding. We see a lot of people with skull fractures without bleeds in the brain, and they didn't all get strangled on the way in, she said.
Right.
So it's actually possible to get a skull fracture without getting an underlying bleed in the brain.
It's true.
And then they, I don't even know how to pronounce this. Petechiae. Yeah, that, yes.
Yeah,
our tiny little broken capillary blood vessels. Everyone has had them. A hard bout of coughing or vomiting can cause facial ones, especially around the eyes. Newborns often have
I've had that
facial
happen after bronchitis.
from the tight squeeze through the cervix. Thus, they're fairly common and in general of no concern. Some see the presence as evidence JonBenet was alive while being strangled and an indication she was strangled first. The Wecht view. His explanation is as follows. If you inflict a blow like that on someone whose heart is beating, he asserts, the heart doesn't stop because the cardiac and respiratory centers are at the base of the brain.
Yes.
You're not damaging that with a blow to the top of the head. It'll become compromised as the brain swells, but initially there's no compromise. They control your heart and lungs. The heart continues to beat. The blood continues to flow. But in the Ramsey case, they got less than a teaspoon and a half of blood. If you have a beating heart and the carotid arteries are carrying blood, this person doesn't die right away. That means the blow was inflicted when she was already dead or dying. This is just giving you guys some different views. Doberson view. He reviewed the autopsy photographs and thinks there would have been much more internal bleeding inside the brain if JonBenet had been struck first and strangled later. The Yeager view. Yeager, Dale Yeager, at the request of BPD, concluded from the available forensic evidence the strangulation and blunt trauma to the skull meant that the offender tried one method of killing the girl and then changed to a different method out of frustration. One of these methods failed, and the person resorted to a second method to kill the victim. If the forensic information is correct, the offender attempted strangulation first. So you see, there's a lot of varying views on which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Right. And it would make more sense to me that they did. And again, trigger warning. Tried to strangle her first, and when that wasn't working, when the garrote wasn't working, that's when they resorted to blunt force violence that way. So because it just kind of makes sense to me that way, but
right.
It's weird to think that, though. One thing I when you guys covered the autopsy stuff, did you delve in? Like, did they talk about the hyoid bone being broken and any of that with her?
I didn't get. All we really covered on the because I have a huge thing on it. I just mentioned the stomach contents, because then we went into
we were talking about and then we had I don't think we had left off where we were going to talk about the cord and the head injuries and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So
well, my issue with all of this is, and not to go backwards with what you said, Robin, because I agree with you in some aspect. From what I know about things like this, I would imagine that the hit over the head would have come first, and if it didn't like knock her out completely and they realize she's still alive, I would see that the strangulation would have been the secondary aspect in my opinion, only because that's final, like finality with that. If you do it. Now here's the thing though. If you do it, especially with a garrote like that, it's going to end the situation, okay? In my opinion. Now, what I would wonder though, with what you said, it brought something to mind. It was interesting to me. The only way I could see that this wouldn't work that way is if somebody was not doing, okay, if anybody knows, again, trigger warning, how a garrote works is you put it around the neck, it has the handles, and you pull. And you put as much pressure on it as you can until the person stops moving and breathing and all that, okay? Now, the only way I can imagine that wouldn't work is if somebody was not applying the pressure that you would in that situation. And if somebody is there to try to take your life, why would they not put as full pressure in that situation?
Right.
Unless they couldn't. Emotionally or mentally, they were not physically able to do that, is what my thought would be. So therefore, in turn, I would say that's where I would believe what you're saying, Robin, that it would come into effect in that aspect, because and I'm only saying this because people believe that somebody within the family, okay, parents or something would be involved, and if they were, that's where I would see you couldn't go through with it because of an emotional attachment to the situation. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So it failed for you, so you just took the thing and hit him over the head because it's an easier, quicker end result.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say, you guys. I know that I made that really long, but it just flipped something in my mind when you were saying that, because otherwise the garrote would be the absolute finality, in my opinion, because if you do it with all intents and purposes of killing the person, it shouldn't take that long, and all you got to do is apply that pressure and you're done, you know?
Well, I'm wondering though too, with the type of cord that was used, it looked to me like it might have, similar to a shoestring, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
have a little bit of give to it, like
nylon around cotton. Yeah, it probably does to some extreme. I agree with you.
Right.
I would just,
and
like I said,
it might cause rope burns.
It could. It should. Yeah, anything should.
Yeah, unless you're wearing gloves of some sort.
On your hands, you mean?
Yeah, it would, as you're using it and
Well,
exerting that kind of pressure.
yeah, if you have gloves on, but you have those handles in your hands of the piece of wood, okay?
Right.
So when you're pulling it in that aspect, it shouldn't slide through your hand, but most people, I would say, would have gloves on anyway so that they don't leave fingerprints and stuff. So yeah. Yeah, you
No,
wouldn't
wait a
get
minute.
the
You just said something, Jacob. You have to have 2 pieces of wood to make one of those work? Or just 1?
the ones that I've seen before have 2 handles, 1 on each end. You wrap it and
Yeah.
pull.
Right.
But there's only there's only 1 piece. But there's only 1 piece of wood in this case, right? That we see in the pictures?
The picture
Where's
I
the
just
other
saw
piece?
just shows that one end. Okay,
Yeah.
Senor says, "No, this is the type that you twist." So,
Right.
what it
You
means
can
is you wrap
twist
it
it.
Oh,
around and
Yeah.
you twist it,
You can keep
okay,
twisting.
twist it,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
like a
okay.
bread tie, you know how you cross a bread tie over and
Right.
you
Yeah,
twist it?
yeah.
Like
Right.
that.
But I was
My
just
apologies, I'm
curious if
sorry.
I didn't realize, and probably a lot of other people didn't realize, there's actually 2 different types of garrots
Yeah.
that could
No,
be
I'm
that.
that's my
Oh,
Yeah.
fault.
okay,
Sorry about that.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
that's
you
okay,
basically
that's okay.
create a loop around something, and then you'll take the stick and you'll twist it and twist
And
it
just
and twist it and keep twisting it until you can't.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
Which
alright.
again which again, still, with what you were saying, would play into that. If they got to a certain point, they couldn't apply the final pressure to take the life of the person for emotional reasons maybe, and backed off. That didn't work, so they used whatever they used to hammer over the head maybe. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I should have explained what I was saying with the stick thing. I'm sorry.
No,
That's
Um,
okay.
that's okay. It's good to know these things because what if that had been the kind used and there's only 1,
Yeah.
but
yeah,
if
no,
it's the
right.
twist kind,
No,
that's a
that's a
whole
good point.
right. Okay, yeah,
Right.
okay.
So I just got a few more things here, and then I'll let Dago take over the new. He can mention that new stuff, I guess. So,
Take your time.
what object was used for the head blow? Police collected several pieces of evidence that could have served as the head blow weapons, including a large flashlight found in the kitchen, a baseball bat, golf clubs, a red clay brick, and a hammer. Uh, Flashlight. Cops had long suspected that a weighty black flashlight was used to inflict a fatal 8-inch head wound on the 6-year-old beauty queen after she was garroted. Um, they have never commented on rumors, speculations, and they're going to stay consistent with that. This was spokespeople from the police. The police believe the flashlight's heavy rubber coating seems consistent with an instrument that could deliver a crushing blow yet not cause bleeding. Um, Werner Spitz account. Dr. Werner Spitz from Macomb County and my medical examiner who worked on the JonBenet Ramsey case has demonstrated that you can place the end of the flashlight perfectly into her wound. No one has demonstrated that such a flashlight could deliver a blow of sufficient force to create the observed injuries without damaging the light end of it. Jeff Shapiro, he was the alleged source for the story that police thought a flashlight had been used and that Shapiro was being fed bogus information by Alex Hunter. He claimed, oh, what the hell is this? Sorry about that. Where am I? Lost my place here. He claimed to have interviewed a detective involved in testing possible objects used to deliver the blow, and in this detective's opinion, a flashlight was not the object. Baseball bat. Except for fibers from the carpet on which JonBenet Ramsey was killed, the only thing that links the bat to the crime is its unusual location and the possibility that a bat could have created the metal scraping sound heard by a neighbor. Tricia Griffith view says there's no proof the bat had anything to do with the crime. The baseball bat is not linked to the murder. It is not shown to be used in any way during the commission of the murder. The only thing that can be proven is that a fiber from the room in which JBR was found was also on the bat. The Ramseys make no attempt to connect the bat in any way to the murder. There is no way to know
Okay.
how long the bat had lain in the location it was found. There are no fingerprints on the bat that are connected to the murder. There is no DNA. Even Patsy Ramsey wasn't sure if the bat was Burke's or not. There is no evidence to show when or how the baseball bat got in the location it was found, and there is no useful evidence other than the small fibers on the bat to suggest it was used in the crime. Um, the garrote. The autopsy alludes to a ligature cord, but most people refer to the strangulation device as a garrote since it included a stick that hypothetically could be used to tighten the noose. Um, some argue that the garrote found around JBR's neck was used as a sexual device. Sex game gone awire. Theories such as thyroids entail the garrotes being used as an erotic asphyxiation device, which is somewhat more consistent with her being killed by a family member or close family friend. Conversely, some intruder theories uh, posit a pedophile or other type of sex offender who
Okay.
used the garrote as part of a sexual fantasy. A related question
Which
is whether JB,
is
yeah,
possible. I
right,
mean, that you know, we know that that is unfortunately a thing.
yes,
But so is that what I even shudder
yeah,
to think about it. But
I
anyway, go
know.
ahead.
A related question is whether JBR struggled while being strangled. Evidence that she did would argue against a voluntary sex game. Was the garrote a sexual device? A story about the choking game that apparently was familiar to Boulder area school children aged 10 to 16. Thus, even if the device was not used for a sexual purpose, its intention may well have been for choking as opposed to staging. Um, Delmer England, not expert, a self-reported expert in knots, has done extensive experimentation with the knots used in the ligature device and argues that it could serve only as a noose. That is, it could only be used to tighten, but not easily released. If so, this
Hmm.
rules it out as an erotic asphyxiation device. Did JBR struggle while being strangled? Here we go. Our favorite guy, Lou Smit, under questioning by Lynn Wood in a sworn deposition in a Wolf vs. Ramsey case, stated, "The most significant part of this photograph and what it tells me is the marks above the garrote. Uh, the whatever I can't say that word again. The what is it?
Petechiae.
Petechiae. There you go.
Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
petechiae.
That was found in the eyes are very tiny, tiny little pinpoint hemorrhages. These are larger abrasions. Dr. Dorberson and I both agree that these marks that above the garrote are fingernail marks made by JonBenet as she was struggling to get the garrote off of her neck. They are half moon in shape. JonBenet also under her fingernails, the primary source of DNA is JonBenet's. Question on both
Which
hands?
makes sense.
On both hands. Um, Not
Got it.
all of these photos are available to the public, nor will they be made public. Uh, but Lou is accurately describing them. It appears that the particular photo Smith is alluding to, containing half moon shaped marks, may not be in the public record.
It doesn't need to be
Eh,
anyway.
Yeah. No
No,
fingernails.
no.
Meyer did not find her skin under her nails. If she scratched at her throat during strangulation enough to leave fingernail marks, then her skin should have been under her nails. It wasn't. Not only that, there is very little damage to the interior of her neck, as if she didn't struggle at all. The hyoid bone is here. You go, Dago. This is the answer. I didn't realize it was even in here. The hyoid bone is still intact, as were the thyroid and uh, cricoid cartilages and her trachea. The strap muscles of her neck were not hemorrhaged. Her tongue and the insides of her cheeks were unblemished as well, and usually strangulation victims will bite their tongue and cheeks during the strangling.
So it doesn't sound if the hyoid was not broken,
No.
All of that stuff you said should have been damaged. Every bit of that, if she was
Yeah.
Right.
truly and honestly strangled.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yes.
So it sounds to me like possibly the MOD on this may have been the contusion to the head.
Yeah.
I never heard that before. That's wild.
Yeah.
Sorry for
Wow.
the
That's
trauma
okay.
stuff, guys, but
Yeah. It
No,
is.
it's
I
okay.
know it's pretty hard to hear for a lot of people. I understand.
Right.
Yeah, no, it
is.
is.
It
It
is.
is. But we have to
And
cover
Pam
it.
Smith made a good point. That could show staging. That's a good point. A
Sure.
very
Yes.
good point.
Yeah,
It's
talk
So
all
about
the
staging like one
yeah,
was talking
there
about.
you go. Yeah, we cover it. Yeah, that was
Yep.
our main theme last week was staging.
Yeah,
That
it was
would make
staging.
perfect sense then, because the hyoid, if
Yeah.
she was truly strangled, the hyoid should have been broken. Most of the time
Right.
it is. And the muscles and everything should have been strained in her neck, as well as the possibility with what they said with her tongue. So there again,
Right.
these things
Right.
it's odd. It's very strange. So good point,
Right.
Pam. Good
Yeah.
point.
So JonBenet's neck gives no indication that she was struggling or even conscious while she was being strangled. And when you consider the
Wow.
killer tied the knot and the back of neck, and that her long johns were urine stained in the crotch and in the front, it sounds to me like she was strangled face down from behind, and she did not struggle against her killer at all.
Which means she didn't suffer through that, thank God.
Right. And then the last part I have here, evidence of sexual assault. There is little question JBR endured some sort of vaginal penetration. Trigger warning. On the night she was killed, there was both vaginal bleeding and fragments of wood shards from the paintbrush used in the garret, as well as birefringent material consistent with said paintbrush also found in her vagina. The only question is whether this was a result of a deliberate sexual assault by a killer motivated in that direction, or instead was part of a staging after the fact to hide past sexual abuse, or perhaps mislead authorities about how or why she actually was killed. I got one little last part here. Just remember what we spoke about last week. I know Dago wasn't here, but for some reason, it seems to be one of the big threads that people go on when they want to do staging. They stage a sexual assault. I don't know why, but they seems to be that they do. In the Burke Ramsey versus CBS defamation case, Linwood argued the evidence clearly demonstrated that JonBenet's murderer also sexually assaulted her. There was blood on JonBenet's underwear and the entrance of her vagina. JonBenet's hymen had been freshly broken, likely close to in time to her death. Forensic pathologists that examined her found that she had been penetrated, and 4 fragments of wood that matched the garret handle were found in her vagina.
Okay. So
now, one of the main things
like you're
you
saying,
just
whether
said,
it was staging or
right.
And one of the things that has happened with that, I remember reading that before. Again, trigger warning everybody for all this.
Yes.
We're sorry. But these are the facts, and they are a big part of this case.
Yes.
There was a big article I read on this years ago that they said that what he just described could have. They looked at it as, you have to understand that staging, as they stated what he just read, could have been based on the fact that somebody could have been trying to hide past sexual assault per se. Okay,
right.
By doing that to make it seem like it just happened then, which has happened in other cases in the past. I've seen. I read in that same article. It's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So it could have never actually been a thing other than poor staging, which is sad, but very possibly true. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. So.
All right.
Okay.
Good, Dago. You said you got some new stuff.
I do have probably where are we at time wise, Robin? Just probably close it out.
It's about quarter up, so you have time.
Okay.
You got some time, yeah.
So what I was gonna jump in with, guys, because this, like I said, is not a cold case. It is actively open and being investigated as we speak. And the decision to reopen bench work on the the quarter-century-old evidence cache, I'm sorry, that follows. There was a 12-month review done, ordered by Chief Stephen Redfern, after he took command of the department in January of 24. Redfern, a career investigator who previously had supervised cold case homicides in Dallas, Texas, assembled a 5-person task unit that included 2 original detective, a forensic geneticist on loan from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and an FBI violent crimes analyst. Over the past year, that unit had re-digitized more than 1,400 photographs. They've re-indexed 3,700 pages of hard copy reports, and most importantly, located 119 items that were either never submitted to the laboratory or were tested only with techniques available before the millennium. So before we have all uh, eh, the new technology that we have that we can do things with now, which they didn't have back then, they were retested with the new technology.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Among the belatedly cataloged items are the remainder of the cord that was used to bind JonBenet's wrists, a second section of the paintbrush handle that had formed the garrote, and several swabs taken from the child's clothing that were stored in an evidence refrigerator that malfunctioned. Listen to this.
Oh my God.
An evidence refrigerator that malfunctioned in 1999 and were subsequently presumed degraded. Okay.
It's ridiculous.
But they kept them, even though they presumed they were degraded, they kept them, and thank God they were able to use them with the new technology. So, sources familiar with the investigation say that the cord and the broken brush segment, had yielded trace cellular material that was not destroyed by the decade-long temperature fluctuation. The material is described in an internal report as minute, Jesus, they wrote minute, minute, but reproducible, okay? Sufficient for YSTR and mitochondrial sequencing, 2 methods that can clarify whether DNA originated from a single male source. We all know this stuff already, okay? Or, where'd it go? Or from multiple possibly related individuals, because the earlier testing had already identified at least 2 unrelated male fractions on separate garments. So that's 2 at least, okay? The laboratory must now determine whether the newly detected DNA matches either of those earlier fractions, introduces a 3rd genetic line. Completion of that comparison is expected by March of 2026. So the results on this were expected this past month or just recently, okay? And a timetable that will place the announcement of results within weeks of the 30th anniversary of the murder, a milestone that city officials have long feared would reignite media saturation comparable to the first years of the crime. So, what I'm going to tell you guys to probably expect is, we all know that CrimeCon's coming. We know that John likes to go to CrimeCon, and many other people that did with this case. I guarantee you this is going to come out at CrimeCon. This is just my opinion, but
yeah, I was just going to say they're probably waiting for CrimeCon.
Yes. So the renewed forensic push coincides with a parallel effort to locate and re-interview every single person known to have been inside the Ramsey house during the Christmas week window, when the crime most likely occurred. Detectives have confirmed that more than 30 such individuals, many of whom were children in '96, have been contacted within the past 6 months. At least 2 former neighborhood guests have provided statements that were not previously documented, and describing an unfamiliar adult male seen walking near the back alley the afternoon of December 25th. The witnesses, who were 9 and 11 years old at the time, told investigators that the man carried a small duffel bag and appeared to be studying the rear of the Ramsey property.
Wow.
Their description.
A small bag, like
Right.
Santa, maybe?
Yeah, 100%. Yes. And where'd it go? Their description their descriptions recorded on body-worn cameras during contemporary interviews have been forwarded to forensic artists who is preparing an updated composite sketch that investigators plan to release publicly once DNA results are announced. Again, look forward to CrimeCon, in my opinion.
Yep.
In addition to witness re-interviews, detectives have obtained cellular tower dumps covering a 1-mile radius around the Ramsey home for the 72-hour period surrounding the murder. Although cellular telephones were far less common in 96 than today, the records have revealed that approximately 160 unique devices that registered with towers in the vicinity using subscriber information were archived by carriers. Investigators have identified the registered owners of 94 of those devices. The remaining 66 are flagged as prepaid or unregistered handsets whose users can be identified only if call detail records still exist on magnetic tape backups. Technicians at the Regional Homeland Security Investigations Lab in Denver are attempting to recover those backups as we speak, a process that involves reconstructing a 1990s era switching software on emulated mainframes. Should even a fraction of the unregistered numbers be recovered, detectives believe that they may be able to place previously unknown individuals in that neighborhood at critical hours of the night. The Ramsey family has been briefed on the existence of new evidence, but not on its scientific details. John Ramsey, now 81 years old, issued a written statement through the family's longtime attorney in which he expressed gratitude that the department is devoting resources to the case, but urged investigators to share findings with the family before any public release. Burke Ramsey, JonBenet's surviving older brother, has likewise been notified. His counsel indicated that Burke is willing to provide any additional DNA or fingerprints that authorities may need for elimination purposes. Replicating cooperation he extended during the 2008 round of testing that formally excluded him as a contributor to the mixed profiles that were found on the victim's clothing. Legal analysts note that even if the new DNA work identifies a single unknown male, prosecutors will confront evidentiary hurdles that have grown more daunting with time. Chain of custody questions linger over several items because early crime scene logs contain gaps, and because 2 detectives who handled key exhibits have since died. Defense attorneys would almost certainly challenge the reliability of any profile that was derived from samples that sat unsealed for years in an evidence room that experienced temperature excursions. Moreover, Colorado's statute of limitations for most felony sex offenses that may have accompanied the murder expired years ago, meaning that any future prosecution would likely rest solely on first-degree murder charges. So I guess they have a statute of limitations on sexual assault, so they can only charge them with the murder, not the sexual assault stuff. So sad, but
Right.
true.
Yeah.
Which again carry no time limit, but require proof beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed both the homicide and the accompanying sexual assault. City officials have nevertheless quietly begun preparations for the possibility of an arrest. The Boulder County Jail has conducted discreet reviews of high security housing protocols, and the district attorney's office has assigned a senior prosecutor to examine whether Colorado's newly enacted familial DNA search statutes could be employed once a partial profile is obtained. Familial searching, which identifies genetic near matches among convicted offenders, has succeeded in other old cold cases. By pointing investigators toward close relatives of the true donor, even when the donor himself has never been arrested, because Colorado's database now contains more than 250,000 convicted offender profiles. The probability of detecting a moderate stringency match to an unknown male profile is statistically higher than at any previous point in the investigation. Beyond the laboratory and legal maneuvering, the case continues to reverberate in popular culture. A 6-part documentary series produced by a European streaming service, same one that did the Kurt Cobain one, premiered last month, which that's the newer one I was talking about, not the one from 6 years ago, but this newer one just came out last month. It's pretty good too. Um, and quickly became the platform's most watched English language program, reviving conspiracy theories and implicate everyone from a Santa Claus party guest. There you go, Robin.
There you go. Just I'm sorry to cut you off. What you said that they came out with one last month?
This is from when this was written, so let me give you the date
Oh,
on
okay.
this.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
This
And
came out December 16th of 25. My apologies.
and it's from and where can we, do you know the name of it or?
The documentary name, I believe it was shit. It was that Netflix thing that they did. JonBenet Past and Present or something, I think it's called.
Okay.
I think it was on Netflix. It may not be anymore, but it was.
Right.
My
Okay.
wife and I watched it on Netflix. I think it is. Somebody in the chat might know better than me. I'm pretty bad at remembering shit. Sorry.
Alicia says that it was Netflix.
Netflix. Okay. Thank you, Alicia. Okay. I thought it was Netflix. Also
hey. Thank you, Wisteria, for gifting 5 memberships for the Devil's Advocates channel. Thank you very much, and congrats to our winners. We appreciate that very, very much.
Very, very nice and awesome, Wisteria. Thank you. So whether the confluence of new science and re-interviewed witnesses heightened public interest, we'll finally break the logjam that has frustrated 3 generations of detectives. Remains uncertain. What is clear is that the JonBenet Ramsey investigation, long a symbol of stalled justice, has entered its most active phase since the first months of the murder, with results of cutting-edge DNA testing expected within weeks, and with forensic genealogists standing by to extend any identifiable profile into family trees. Investigators are candid that the next 6 months could determine whether the case moves forward toward closure or recedes once more into the realm of unsolved mystery. And for a city that has lived under the shadow of that December night for 29 years, the coming anniversary will be less a commemoration than a verdict on whether modern science can succeed where decades of a traditional detective work have failed. And I'm going to tell you on that note, folks, this is the case that I would look to a place like Othram to do something on, okay? As much as I don't like Othram, this is where they need to be in this aspect. None on stuff like the Idaho or anything else. They do well with cold cases. They need to go on this and do their thing. And if they can pull this DNA, do it. Do your thing, okay?
Right.
Like I said, this article was first released on the 25th of December of last year. And now, well, about 6 months ago.
Yeah, it was supposed to be released last month, potentially.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So,
because it's just been with the update in technology and stuff. Remember, this case happened in 1996. So my understanding, what I was looking at, and I don't know if they could even if they are able to do that test now with what I was reading was that they know that some of the DNA that they have from JonBenet's clothes and whatever, it's a male, but they don't know the race.
That's
They're
it.
not sure of the race.
They have 3 or they have 2. They have 2 different male DNA patterns that they pulled, and they're working on the possibility of a 3rd. But like he said, they know that it's male so far, but they don't know, black, white, Asian, whatever, folks, and that's the problem they're having with it. So, very interesting. Very interesting.
Another aspect I'm going to be very interested in is because the fact that not as many people had cell phones back then could actually help in a way if those records that they were talking about, those other types of records, were preserved. Because if you only have 160 people to go through versus 3,000 hits of pings, that could lead to something right there as well.
I have to mention something real quick. I know that we're going to be I know we're going to be ending shortly, but I have to say this because I know that we've mentioned this on. I think I've heard Robin address it. I think we've all said some kind of comment, including Lee. so from the we're not going to go into the whole big thing, but if you guys aren't aware, the grand jury in this case did indict the parents, but the district
Right.
attorney decided not to pursue the case. They did not.
Right.
Why? You could think of many reasons why.
Sure.
You know, they were highly known in the community. They had a lot of money. Is it fair? No. But being that you're talking about documents, very interesting that there is a few pages from the grand jury that have never been released. They've been secret. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did,
Makes you
because that's
wonder.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
Why?
Well, I think the first thing he said, they were very well liked and very important in the community. Okay.
Right.
And we all know money and power. Money and power. We talk about this all the time. Money and power gets you
Yep.
everything in your life that you want. And
Yep.
people that are very prominent, that's the word I'm looking for. Prominent people within a community are not, they don't bother them. They don't pick with them. They don't go at them as much as you would see, like you and I, Robin. We wouldn't be as lucky as
Right.
them to not be being looked into
No.
so much, you know?
No.
So,
Absolutely.
No,
Absolutely.
and right.
So,
And the thing that's weird, I know it's like it's different for most of us because most of us are not in that level or that
right.
tier, I guess. But I mean, the same day, basically within a 24-hour period that JonBenet Ramsey's body was found, they were already getting a lawyer and everything. Which,
right.
like, I'm not saying that they're wrong to get a lawyer, and that doesn't mean that they're guilty. To me, I can't think in my mind that would be like the top thing on my list. Like, oh, I have to get a lawyer. I'd be
Right.
like, I want to know. I'll give you whatever info you want. I want to find the killer. I want to find what happened. I'm not going to answer your questions. You know.
I will say this though, just like in the Shannon Gilbert case, her
Yes.
family got a lawyer because
Yes,
they
that's
wanted
true.
to try to put the screws to the cops to do their job.
Right.
So I know family friends had urged the
Right.
Ramseys to get a lawyer. Did they do the same thing because they
Right.
wanted someone who could help navigate those waters to push the police to look past just the obvious that the parents did it, or family friends or whatever? Were they, was that their reasoning for obtaining a lawyer, not just to protect themselves, but to
Well,
actually
Right.
try to make the police, law enforcement, look into things harder?
that's a good point. And one thing I will say, going along with what Woman just said, if we remember when we were reading at that point, when John had they found her, they brought her upstairs. He
Mhm.
starts calling people, and one of like almost immediately, he's on the phone with an attorney. Okay, and then he books that flight. Like this was all within an hour of finding her. If I remember the
Yeah,
timeline, and I was kind of like, wow, okay,
that's
it's just a
It's a little
little.
it's just a little odd to me. That's all.
yeah. I do
I
agree.
agree.
I do agree. Yeah.
I'm not saying
So
I'm not saying he's guilty, but it's
No,
just
no,
odd. It's odd
no,
behavior.
it is odd.
a lot
It
of
is
us as
odd.
parents would have been way more worried, in my opinion, about what just happened to my child. Why did this happen?
Yeah.
Right.
How did this happen? I think, that kind of stuff would have been the last thing on my list, is what I think one was
Right.
saying, and I agree with him.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah. Yep. So, well, gentlemen, and our lovely audience, this has been a fascinating look back at this case. I am so happy to hear that we may have more information coming very shortly
I hope.
about this case.
Yeah. That
Maybe
would be
they have
great.
solved it, or at least moved the ball down the field to
Yeah,
have
moving in that
the
direction.
capability.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Or
Absolutely.
So
or eliminating
yeah,
suspects,
Yeah.
Right.
right. Yeah. So
It's
I'm very
it's
excited
time.
to hear what may come
Thir
out. So
30
but
years is a long time to go unsolved for this little girl, and she deserves
it is
absolute justice in this. It's so horrible and so sad.
absolutely.
So, yes.
Absolutely. It's I just I can't imagine anything like that happening to a child of mine or anybody's child. It's just it's horrendous. But it has been fascinating going back through this with you all, and so as we close out tonight, we haven't picked our next case yet. So you'll find out next week what our next case is going to
Yeah.
be, because we have to confer a little bit and see what we want to get into next. So you'll find out next Sunday what our new deep dive case is going to be. So we'll start going around the horn. We'll go ahead with Dago, and then we'll go one, and I'll close this on out.
All right, guys. Thank you again so much, and then my apologies. I wasn't here for the last episode. This has been a great series. Very excited. But again, the Kurt Cobain series and the Princess Diana, they were all amazing. Every one of them's been amazing, especially with all of you. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful to be able to have done this with Robin and One. It's always an honor to be able to do these things, guys. And I enjoy that you guys come over here and support us as we do this, looking for real justice and truth in some of these cases that just don't make sense. And so thank you all for that. And again, I agree with Robin. I hope that, going forward with new technology and with what they're saying about, revisiting the bench evidence cache on this and so on and so forth, that maybe we'll finally get some justice for this beautiful little girl that so very sadly lost her life 30 years ago. Guys, is a long time to go with no
That's
answers to
just
this.
unreal.
It's very sad. So I'm looking forward to that. And again, thank you to all of you that support us here, and follow us on our, Devil's Advocates on that channel, as far as the True Crime Cafe as well. Thank you guys for the support for Crimes After Dark every night when we do this, and then on Sunday when we do our special show, as I call it. I don't know what else to call it, but thank you,
It's
thank you
like,
to all the
yeah.
moderators. Yes, you guys are
Cold case.
amazing. There you go. And we wouldn't exist without you guys. We all know that. We are so very grateful to each and every one of you for everything you do. Thank you again to my production manager, Mikey, my videographer, Molly, every one of my mods, and all the mods with the Devil's Advocates channel. You guys are amazing as well. Guys, every one of you are so amazing and so very beautiful. As I say, please don't forget to love yourselves and each other, and don't change anything, because that is what makes you the beautiful people. Truly. Nothing but love to each and every one of you folks. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you very soon. Good night.
All right. Thank you very much. And one.
Awesome case discussion as always. Glad you guys came to support us. I hope we were able to give you some different points of view, and hopefully you learned some new facts. I certainly did.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many
Yeah.
documentaries and how many different things, and every time I seem to watch something or do a little more research on it, I learn something new. As for as like I said with the pineapple, I'm not so sure that uh JonBenet got the pineapple from Burke's dish there. There's strong evidence to suggest there seems to be just as many experts that say that she had the pineapple after that she got the pineapple before. So it's
Right.
like
Right.
I'm I don't know what to think with that. I had a point of view before, but that's what I mean. You have to try to keep an open mind with these things, and um be willing to adapt, be willing to listen, and at least, maybe you don't agree, but listen to the facts and listen to the thread, and maybe, you will pick up something, or you'll learn something new. Like we covered. Apparently her, the hyoid bone on her was not broken, and what we know from, I guess it's not 100%, but in most strangulation cases, as what Dago was alluding to, if you find that the hyoid bone is broken or damaged, usually is signs of, some kind of strangulation or murder. Not, would be not, obviously she didn't commit suicide, but
right,
trying to determine what the point, what actually killed her, strangulation or something
right.
else. But, it's interesting points. I'm not sure what case we're covering next. I would say, I guess, Dago and Robin and myself will discuss it, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe you guys in the comments of the video, of today's video or one of the video, maybe
Yeah.
suggest some cases that you guys
Yeah.
might get to hear, and we'll talk about it, because every case is important. It's not just because people have money, or because this this was a little white beauty pageant girl kind of in the limelight. We're willing and open to looking at every life is
Yes.
important. Every life is
Yep.
essential. I don't care if you have one penny to your name or $10 billion. Okay, life is
Right.
precious, and we'll talk about it. So I'm interested in what
Yeah.
cases you guys want to hear, because there are so many, different ones. But
Right.
thanks to all the mods. We love you guys. We have some very special things coming very shortly with the new book coming out on, just to mention quickly, on the
Yes.
Idaho 4 there. Um, Broken Broken Plea by
Broken
Christopher
plea.
Whitcomb. Yeah, there's some great stuff coming. I'm sure that, Robin will get you guys up to date, and I will leave you guys now. Almost forgot. So we got a movie quote here. It's from the early 2000s. Let me know when you guys are ready.
All right.
Go
All
on.
right. Whoa. Look at that. Who'd want to live in a place like that? That would be my home. Oh, it's lovely. You're really quite a decorator. It's amazing what you've done with such a modest budget. I like that boulder. That is a nice boulder.
Shrek.
Yep. You got it.
That's a nice boulder. I like
You
that
got
boulder. We're making waffles in the morning. In the morning, we're making waffles. Yes, I love that movie. I've seen that movie about 3,000,001 times, you guys. So yes, there's Amanda.
Yep.
Sorry,
They're
Amanda.
great
I got
movies,
you on
that's for
that one.
sure.
I even
Yeah, he
paused
beat
for a
you.
minute. Sorry. I have 7 kids,
That's
you guys.
fine.
Yes, me and Amanda tied on that one. I have 7 kids, so you gotta know. Anything you put out from Disney, forget it. I got that one. So
Good stuff. Good
Oh,
stuff.
well,
I can
yeah,
watch
good
that
stuff
movie
for sure.
every day. I can watch that movie. I love that movie. All of them. They're great.
Yeah, it's so funny. Oh my gosh. Well, as for me, yes, thank you all for coming out. We appreciate your support. Sundays are a different animal. Of course, Lee is off, but so he gives us free range to delve into cases. And like one said, if there's something you out there would like to see covered, leave us a comment with that, and we will confer this week and see what we're going to get into next. So it'll be a surprise next week. So you have to tune in to see what we're doing. So, and yes, the new book by Christopher Whitcomb will be coming out on April the 28th. Lee will be interviewing him tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And we will be keeping you up to date with the time on the 28th that we will be airing that interview, as well as having, you know, Christopher on with us with the panel live after that interview premieres. So we are, of course, super stoked about this. This is kind of a once in a lifetime kind of thing. Maybe we hope not once in a lifetime, but I mean this is huge, but it's also huge for the community at large and for justice. So that's all I can say
Yes.
about that. But we will be back tomorrow evening, of course, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we thank you for coming out this evening and every evening. And if you are part of the replay crew, we appreciate you so, so much. Please don't think we don't, because we certainly do. And I hope everyone has a fantastic evening, and we will see you tomorrow.
Have a great night, everybody.
Good night, Kevin.